welcome to the Hearts Afire Podcast. The pandemic over the past year has tested many things in our lives, one of the most prominent things being our faith. On today's episode, we'll dive into this topic along with discussing the importance of keeping faith during times of sickness and in times of crisis. Before we get to our discussion, I'd like to remind you that whether you're watching this episode live or listening to it on a podcast, make sure to never miss an episode by clicking the subscribe button now. We appreciate your support of the Hearts Afire Podcast. Now on today's discussion with our guest, Sister Bridget Mary Troy. For those of you who don't know her, Sister Bridget has previously ministered as a St. Dominic's cottage mother, a group home cottage mother, a teacher, as well as in payroll and personnel, an infirmary administrator, and sacristan at the Mother House. And presently, she ministers as a medical driver at the Mother House. And now I'd like to welcome Sister Bridget Mary Troy and thank her for joining us today. Hi, Sister Bridget.
Hello, you're welcome.
So, Sister Bridget, last winter, you had a severe case of COVID. So take our listeners through that time for you. What you were feeling from the moment you became ill to when you were diagnosed and to then when you got the news from the doctor that you were COVID-free.
I will never forget the date. It was December 16th. And that night I had gotten out of bed. And the first thing that happened to me was like a flash of lightning through my head. I could hardly walk, but I had to go naturally around to the bathroom, which I did. I had to stay there for a bit, being very sick. Actually, I had the sensation at one time of being pushed into the wall or something like that. So I got myself back to my room, which is just right next door, so I was very lucky with that. And I got myself into bed, and I went into this deep kind of sleep. Next morning when I got up, all I could take was about maybe 2 steps. But I was determined that I was going to do whatever I could do, so it was better to keep moving. So I got myself around to the shower and that, by holding on to bars because I couldn't stand, wasn't able to dry myself, and they could come back around to my room and just fall into the bed and it went on like that. I didn't lose my smelling anything of that, and I had a little bit of an appetite, but aches and pains and really bad. And then our doctor, Sister Mary Flood, she tested me, and of course, we came to the conclusion that I had the virus. So that went on. I missed Christmas, the whole thing of Christmas and New Year's. It was still kind of time to recover from it, being kept in touch with Mary Flood and Noreen Walsh, who was our nurse. They kept a good eye on me. I didn't lose my breath, but anytime I did, I had a brown paper bag, and I could breathe into that. But I'm not recommending that for anybody else. That is just something, that I did. That's an old Irish thing, I think. Mm-hmm. So I was able to be okay with that. And slowly but surely, I began to recover. I could walk a bit more. The kitchen had brought up my meals, left it outside. Of course, I was isolated and all that. But as I said, the other thing too is the confusion. I lost a couple of days that I didn't even know what the date was. But by determination and making myself do what I could with the help of Noreen and Mary Flood, I was able to get myself pretty well back. So when I tested again, and I was okay, and I was able to go down to the dining room, but the fatigue was very bad. And the fact that I didn't think I would ever be able to drive again, that's how bad that was. And that went on for about a month. So if there's anyone out there that, that I'm not being political here or anything, I hope, but if you haven't taken the vaccine, you talk to your doctor and you do what your doctor tells you to do, but you really should protect yourself and protect everybody, right? Because it is no joke when you get it. I was just lucky enough, to have the built-in supports that I didn't have to end up in the hospital. But not everybody has those kind of privileges. So, in that way, it worked for me. But it is vitally important, especially now when they're telling us to wear the masks, and if we go in probably to stores and places that are crowded, and to protect ourselves, the people around us, and in particular to protect the children that we care for outside, so that was.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Sister Bridget. And, vaccines do save lives. And I'm grateful that you were able to get it. And, the sisters here were able to get it. And, it's helping us move forward. And Sister Bridget, do you think over your time with battling COVID, do you think your faith was tested during this time? And if so, describe what that felt like for you.
I'll describe this how it felt for me, but it may be a bit of a surprise, because I remember thinking to myself and being a little bit taken aback. It's not once did I say a prayer, and not once did I ever think of God. Meanwhile, I'm someone, we say prayers 3 times a day, mass, all that. But it always amazed me after that I never thought of calling. I fall fast asleep, when I go back into bed. So I never thought that. But I'll tell you, we know our faith so well. And I am reminded of the poet, Footsteps in the Sand. Mm-hmm. One set of foot, that's when God. And God was very close to me. And he carried me through the whole thing. Even though I wasn't aware, he says, I was there with you the whole time. And naturally, he was with me the whole time, that I was able to do what I could, in his name. And I feel myself very close to God, in normal times. And it really absolutely amazed me that I didn't even think of him, but he was thinking of me. So there's great faith in that, our faith certainly does carry us through. And if we're not able to do it because we're too sick to remember, God carries us through everything, even though we're not calling on him, or we're not saying, where are you, or something like that. He's there always. So.
And just to further dive into that topic, during the worst moments where you kind of touched upon it before during your battle with COVID, how did your faith keep you strong?
Well, my faith kept me strong in itself. I didn't even have to call upon the faith. The faith was there in me and kept me strong, because, as I said, God was with me the whole time, even though I wasn't calling out or something like that. But because we have this deep and great faith in God and the Blessed Mother, they're there with us all the time. And I think that it might have maybe in some ways made me a little closer to them, knowing that in my time of need, I didn't have to call, I didn't have to ask, and he was right there with me, the whole time. So otherwise I wouldn't have gotten through it. I know I wouldn't have.
I love that. And Sister Bridget, final question for today. What advice would you give someone who is battling COVID or just a sickness in general about keeping their faith strong during a difficult time?
Well, I think in the case of COVID, when I really wasn't aware and I was very confused and couldn't remember things, after I knew to thank God that he was there with me, the whole time. But people who are sick and are battling through cancer and things like that, who are aware of the surroundings and whatever, is just to ask, dear God, please help me. Blessed Mother, you're there for me. And if you can, we are Catholics, but anyone, if you can say your rosary or offer, you don't even have to, I don't think you even have to do that. All you have to do is have faith in him, even once in a while just to say, please help me, or, whatever little prayer that you might want to say yourself that's in your own. You don't have to, you can just, it just comes to you. You can just say the words, dear God, please help me. I know you're there. I know you're with me. I know you're beside me. Never to lose faith in God, no matter what is, because as we know, He will answer our prayers, whatever way he feels is best for us, whatever that might be. And I think that's something that we also accept. We can ask, but he's in charge. So ultimately, he will do what he thinks is best for us.
Absolutely. And I love that. And you, as always, give the best advice, the best wisdom. And I truly appreciate you coming on today and, discussing this topic with me and sharing your insight with our listeners. And we hope that you will join us for future discussions.
Yes, I will.
All right. You're the best, Sister Bridget. And thank you again.
God bless all.
And before we go, I'd like to remind you that if you enjoyed today's discussion, please let us know by giving the Hearts Afire podcast a 5-star rating on wherever you listen to your podcast. We hope that you enjoyed our first season of the Hearts Afire podcast and tune into future episodes when season 2 begins in September. Thank you again for joining us today and for our first season. Please know that you are in the daily prayers of our sisters and associates.